Madeline Soto, The Darkness Exposed. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. For those of you who may not be familiar with the case involving Madeline Soto, she's a teen from Florida who has been killed. The investigation and the timeline associated with her disappearance and the discovery of her body raises various points that are worth examination, particularly with regard to the individual who is suspected of being a killer. On the 26th of February, Madeline Soto was reported missing around 8 p.m. after Stephen Stearns, her mother's boyfriend, and in fact stepfather, reportedly dropped her off near Hunters Creek Middle School. Earlier that morning, Soto's mother was woken up when Stearns took the dog out for a walk, but she went back to sleep. She never saw her daughter that morning. At some point during the day, Stearns told Soto's mother that he had factory reset his phone while trying to update it. That, of course, seems suspicious in itself. How would you do it accidentally when you were trying to update it? Does this suggest that more likely he was seeking to factory reset his phone? And if so, why? Was there something on his phone that he wanted to hide? Was this that the contents of his phone posed some cause of problem for him? Soto's mother went to the school around 4:30 p.m. to pick her daughter up, but she was told that Soto had never come to school that day, according to investigators. In addition, Soto's phone was left at home. While Soto had a tendency to run away, this was unusual for her. The fact that the teen would regularly run away from home could point to difficult circumstances in the home environment and question who has been creating that environment. On the 27th of February, the Orange County Sheriff's Office issued a release to the public about Soto's disappearance, asking for information about her whereabouts. In an interview with investigators, Stearns, the stepfather, was asked about where exactly he dropped Soto off and where he went afterwards. Throughout the conversation, detectives questioned some of Stearns' answers, which seemingly prompted Stearns to change his story. Thus, there is an incorrect recollection by Stearns. Could this just be the fact that memory is fallible? Or is it the case that he's telling lies and therefore is unable to keep up with his lies? Or does he realise that the things that he's saying are problematic for him and therefore is changing his story because he has something to hide? On February the 28th, a massive search was conducted by the Sheriff's Office. Orange County Sheriff John Mina said that deputies accessed Soto's phone, finding information that indicated she wanted to live in the woods when she turned 13 years old on February the 22nd. He also said that deputies searched the area where she was last seen, areas where they'd received tips, and any areas where their investigative leads took them. Ultimately, the search came up empty. However, detectives did receive consent from Stearns to search his cell phone. Might it be that Stearns was content for them to search the cell phone because he'd undertaken a factory reset and therefore believed that there was nothing that would be incriminating found upon his phone? Or was he simply content for them to have a look because he knew that he'd not done anything wrong? Deputies also searched the family's home for more clues. During this time, deputies found out that Stearns had never dropped Soto off at school. Meanwhile, Stearns and Soto's mother drove to a hotel in Orange County, where they stayed with Stearns' father as the home was investigated. According to Soto's mother, Stearns was very panicky because he wanted his cell phone back. Could this be that simply he needed his cell phone because it was necessary for him to keep in touch with people? Perhaps he needed it for some work-related reason? Or might it be, and potentially more likely, that it was because he was concerned that the longer the phone was away from him, the more likely it was that he could be incriminated in something because he knew what he had done? Might it be that he was concerned that there was something incriminating that could be found, and this would be a threat to his need for control? While she, the mother, and Stearns both agreed that the investigators were targeting Stearns, she believed he was the wrong guy. But at some point in the night, Stearns snuck out and drove all the way down to Northport for unknown reasons, before returning by the next morning, an investigative report reveals. That, of course, is strange behaviour. Deputies said Stearns' parents lived in the area, although Stearns' mother later reported never seeing her son during the trip, thus suggesting he went elsewhere. On February the 29th, the Sheriff's Office announced that Stearns was arrested as the prime suspect in Soto's disappearance. In a release, investigators said that detectives discovered hundreds of disturbing images and videos of child pornography when they searched Stearns' phone and Google Drive account. Now, pausing there. Just because somebody has such images and videos does not automatically mean that they are a narcissist. There are plenty of normal, in the sense of non-narcissists, though their behaviour isn't normal, being interested in that kind of material. But with my categorisation of individuals to help you understand narcissism, it's not always narcissists that engage in looking at images of child pornography or indeed engaging in abuse of children. It can happen in relation to individuals who are not narcissists. It is common for certain narcissists to engage in such behaviour because children are easy to control, they gain fuel from them, and they can gain the residual benefit of pleasure as a consequence of viewing this type of material or engaging in sexual abuse of children. And because they have no emotional empathy, they do not care for the fact of the impact that it has upon the child. A review of the device's data also showed that someone had tried to delete the evidence ahead of time. Accordingly, it would appear that Stearns, or somebody on his behalf, probably Stearns, recognised that having such material was problematic and therefore might be viewed as a threat to control, and in the circumstances was compelled to seek to remove it. Detectives were able to pinpoint some of the images and videos to the family's home. As a result, Stearns was arrested and held on no bond. He was charged with sexual battery and possession of child sexual abuse materials. For a narcissist, of course, such a charge would be a threat to control. During another interview with detectives, Stearns discussed his relationship with Soto's mother and their sleeping arrangements at home. According to investigative reports, Stearns said he typically shared a bed with Soto and her mother, claiming Soto always needed human contact when going to sleep. Now, it's not unusual for a child to sleep with one or perhaps both parents. A little more unusual perhaps where there's a step-parent involved, and perhaps a little more unusual again where you have a male step-parent and a female teenager. It would suggest that there is an issue with boundary recognition. That even if the child needed human contact when going to sleep, it might be suggested, therefore, that the man would leave the bed so that the child could be with the mother, which would demonstrate some recognition of boundaries and emotional empathy. However, it gets even worse. It was also normal for Stearns to share a bed with Soto alone, Soto's mother later told detectives. Again, on the face of it, that might not necessarily be seen as problematic. There may be individuals that would share bed in such circumstances. Nevertheless, questions would be raised about the fact that a step-parent is sharing a bed absent the mother, with a teenage girl. It was claimed apparently so Soto's mother could get some sleep. One has to question, was she content with her daughter sleeping with her boyfriend, as in sleeping next to him? Or perhaps it was the case that Stearns insisted on this arrangement. According to the affidavit for Stearns' arrest, Stearns told detectives he had dropped Soto off in front of Peace United Methodist Preschool at 8:40 a.m. on February the 26th, despite the middle school being farther down the street and starting classes at 9:30 a.m. Detectives said this appeared unusual, and while a license plate reader captured Stearns' vehicle at some point, the details about where and when this happened were redacted from the original report. In addition, the affidavit shows that Stearns told detectives he had accidentally performed a factory reset on his phone on February the 26th, though investigators were still able to discover images on the device and a Google Drive that depicted child pornography. Investigators added that they found a photo on Stearns' phone showing a roommate of Soto's mother nude in the bathroom. The roommate said she had not permitted Stearns to take that photo. That is a lack of boundary recognition and a sense of entitlement. On February the 29th, detectives said they interviewed an ex-girlfriend of Stearns who described their short relationship together. The two had a brief relationship in 2022, but even during that time, Stearns would refuse to spend the night with her, instead insisting that he had to stay at the home of Soto's mother because Soto and her mother could not sleep without him there, police explained. This is extraordinary. You are in a relationship with somebody, but you refuse to spend the night there, instead insisting that you go and stay at the house of another woman with her daughter. That shows a lack of emotional empathy for the person that he's in a relationship with, and shows a very strange set of sleeping arrangements with regard to spending time with Soto and her mother. The girlfriend, shortly after finding out about the trio's sleeping arrangements, broke up with Stearns. On March the 1st, during a news conference, Mina said investigators were confident that Soto was already dead, having been killed at her home before Stearns moved her body. According to Mina, there was video evidence showing Stearns throwing items into a dumpster at the apartment complex around 7:35 a.m. on February the 26th, the day she was reported as missing. The sheriff's office later said that it found Soto's backpack and her school-issued laptop in a dumpster. While Stearns had reportedly dropped Soto off near school that day, Mina explained that wasn't the case, and Stearns was instead spotted driving a vehicle with Soto's body inside. We have evidence that shows Stephen Stearns returning to the complex and Madeline was visible in that vehicle. We believe she was already dead at that time. In fact, investigative reports show Soto was most likely killed at her home. After another long search, Orange County deputies finally recovered Soto's body from a wooded area off Hickory Tree Road in Osceola County. That night, a vigil was held in Soto's memory near her middle school. Investigators spoke with Soto's mother to update her on the homicide investigation and further interview her about her relationship with Stearns. During that interview, she reportedly called Stearns a master liar and master manipulator, something she'd also discussed with Stearns' father. If what she's saying is accurate, this habitual lying is a narcissistic indicator, as is the course of manipulative behaviours. She initially wanted to believe Stearns was innocent, often the stance of somebody who is in the relationship with somebody who was accused of child abuse, but after being shown the sexual offence images by police, she changed her mind. I asked her what she thought Stephen was guilty of, and she replied, "He's been grooming and abusing my child," an investigative report reads. Now, pausing there, leaving aside the culpability of the mother in all of this, if she's aware that her child was being groomed and abused, but the fact that she describes such behaviours, and on the basis that such description is accurate, that is demonstrative of the way that a narcissist would behave. First of all, abusing a child demonstrates a sense of entitlement, objectification, and an absence of emotional empathy. But specifically, the grooming that's engaged in as, in effect, a form of love bombing, which is, as you know, for the narcissist, designed to bring that individual under control, to establish a suggestion of trust between the individuals, making them easier to control. Notwithstanding what she had said, during a few moments of an interview with Orange County deputies, investigators said she appeared to defend Stearns. During portions of the interview, she continuously protected Stephen Stearns, was questioned about why she prioritises Stephen Stearns over her daughter, and even at one point referred to the sex stuff as not evil, but the murder of her daughter as evil. The interview eventually ended, but Soto's mother did not show the same level of emotion or care in regards to her daughter's ongoing victimisation by Stephen Stearns than she did her disappearance. It appeared to me that she'd already accepted that the victimisation was happening, and her emotion appeared fictitious. Accordingly, question marks also would be raised about the mother. Is it the case that she might also be a narcissist who didn't have any emotional empathy for her daughter and was quite content for her to be groomed by another narcissist, by a sexual predator, and for her to be abused because she simply didn't care about her? Or was it the case that she was enthralled to the narcissist Stearns, perhaps frightened of him, which reduced her emotional empathy for her daughter? Many people find it extraordinary that a female could allow a man to abuse their child and not do anything about it. But there are repeated instances of women who allow it to happen. In some instances, it is because of their own narcissism. In others, it is because their emotional empathy for their child becomes reduced as a consequence of fear and coercion they experience in relation to the boyfriend, the step-parent. On March the 2nd, Stearns waived his first appearance in the county court, instead being represented solely by attorney. The judge granted Stearns no bond. Aside from that, the Instagram account for Osceola County Sheriff Marcos Lopez posted a confidential crime scene photo, which the agency later told News 6 had been accidentally shared with the public. The clothes seen in the photo are consistent with the outfit Soto was believed to be wearing when she was reported missing on February the 26th. A caption below the picture read, "Great day with our seniors," followed by an emoji of a smiley face with a halo. Earlier today, a post was made on social media about a community event for seniors, an unnamed Osceola County spokesman said in an email to News 6. In the post, an investigative photo was accidentally included. The photo was immediately removed. We deeply apologise for any confusion or disturbance this may have caused. As with any investigation, the information obtained is confidential, and any mistaken disclosures will be immediately rectified. The former county sheriff, Russ Gibson, confirmed that the photograph showed Soto's body. On the same day, Nerva Rodriguez, the executive director of the sheriff's office, shared another photograph on her personal Facebook account that showed her posing with Stearns as he was walking out of a door at the county jail on Friday morning. "If God's love had been poured out over your life, don't allow evil to keep you away from what He's prepared for you," a caption above the photo of Stearns and Rodriguez stated. On March the 6th, released court records show that Stearns is accused of sexually abusing Soto for years. Note this is an accusation, but if it is accurate, this shows a sustained period of activity towards an individual, which denotes an absence of emotional empathy, a sense of entitlement, and the application of manipulations in the pursuit of the assertion of control, the drawing of fuel, and a residual benefit by way of pleasure. Despite Stearns' attempts to wipe his phone, nullification of threat to control, investigators were able to recover files showing the sexual abuse, which stemmed back as far as 2022, an arrest warrant affidavit says. Note that he has recorded what he has done. This is commonly undertaken by certain narcissists because the record allows them to revisit what has been done, which allows for the provision of thought fuel. In some instances, of course, they will also derive sexual gratification from rewatching the abuse. They have no emotional empathy for the victim, and therefore no conscience can be pricked by watching what they are doing. Furthermore, it's collateral consequences. They are creating evidence which could be utilised against them. In this case, was such with Stearns. But at the point of creating it, the fact is that the focus is on the needs of the narcissist and not considering what the collateral consequence may well be arising from the recording being made. Upon reviewing the contents of Stephen's phone, several images and videos were located which depicted the missing juvenile, the affidavit reads. Police also spoke with a former acquaintance of Stearns, who had met him 3 years beforehand while playing a game called Warhammer. According to the friend, he was under the impression that Stearns and Soto's mother were not in a relationship anymore, so he thought it was odd when he heard them calling themselves boyfriend and girlfriend after Soto's disappearance. The acquaintance added that during a previous conversation about the couple's supposed breakup, Stearns seemed more upset about the bond he created with Madeline than having a relationship with her mother, investigators said. It would appear, therefore, that the target for him was Madeline, and the loss of that relationship was a greater threat to control than the loss of the relationship with the mother. On March the 6th, detectives spoke with Stearns' parents, learning they disapproved of his relationship with Soto's mother. Stearns' mother stated they didn't approve of them being together because of drug use. Stephen's father stated that it was drug use as well, as Soto's mother was taking medication for depression and anxiety, and he didn't think Soto's mother was going to be a good influence for Stephen. They explained that both Stephen and Jennifer Soto would sleep all the time, and it wasn't a positive thing for the relationship. When both Stephen and Soto's mother would suffer a mental illness episode, they would bring the other person down with them, and it wasn't a good dynamic. At some point in the interview, Stearns' mother told detectives she'd found a torso of a sex doll in Stearns' bedroom, and she believed that the reason Stearns hadn't gone in their home on the night of the 28th was because he didn't have a garage door opener. In addition, Stearns had reportedly called his father on the day of Soto's disappearance, though the way he was speaking was odd. During the conversation, his father said Stephen was upset, as if he was holding himself responsible for Madeline's disappearance, a case report reads. Stearns' father said he felt that Stephen was rehearsing his story on him because it was the same routine that he'd used during a media interview. Now, pausing there, it is quite common for a narcissist to adopt a particular narrative and deploy that almost verbatim for different people. In some instances, this will occur, for example, whereby a narcissist is married to somebody but is having an affair, and they will send the same text message to the husband and to the boyfriend. This is because the narcissist compartmentalizes and needs to assert control over both of them, and does so by sending the same message because, in effect, the narcissist doesn't really distinguish them as separate people, just simply separate appliances, and that separate appliances can be treated in a similar fashion, i.e., subjected to control, subjected to the same message to gain that control. Accordingly, with regard to Stearns, he speaks to his father using the same language that is utilised during a media interview, because he doesn't in actual fact distinguish between the two. That he utilises what is being said to assert control over his father and to also assert control in the media interview. Furthermore, there may also be a residual benefit from the interaction with his father, whereby he's wanting to test the extent of control over his father with the rehearsed speech, so that his narcissism can gauge how effective it will be with regard to the assertion of control when the media interview is given. On March the 7th, detectives spoke with the two roommates of Soto's mother, learning more about what happened the night before the girl's disappearance. According to one of the roommates, she heard noises coming from the upstairs bedroom where Stearns and Soto had reportedly been sleeping alone as Soto's mother slept in a separate room. In order for her to hear noises, it would have to be significant based upon the noise that would have to travel through two closed doors and across a hallway, an investigative report reads. While both Stearns and Soto had been alone in that room in the past, Soto's mother had told the roommate that Stephen wouldn't harm Soto, so it was okay, the roommate explained. Well, it would appear that either somebody's covering for Stearns or has been duped by him. The Orange Barcelona State Attorney's Office announced that it filed 60 counts against Stearns, including the following: 8 counts of sexual battery on a child under 12, 5 counts of sexual battery with a child 12 to 18, familial custodial authority, 7 counts of lewd or lascivious molestation, 40 counts of unlawful possession of materials depicting sexual performance by a child, 10 or more images. That is clearly as a consequence of the material that was found on his phone. Evidence that condemns him and shows a pattern of behaviour over a sustained period of time, demonstrating an absence of emotional empathy, a need to assert control, a sense of entitlement and objectification. On March the 13th, detectives spoke with Soto's best friend, who explained that Soto had a habit of texting her every morning, but she hadn't received any messages from Soto on the day she was reported missing. On March the 21st, the police chief, Betty Holland, held a news conference to discuss the progress of the investigation. She described the investigation as very intricate and that detectives want to make sure they uncover every single fact and the evidence. We don't want to put a timeline on it. Basically, because the detectives are very meticulous in what they do, and we want to be sure that everything is uncovered that possibly can, she said. During the conference, Holland was asked whether Soto's mother was considered a suspect or a person of interest. In response, Holland said, "Everyone who was close to Madeline is considered a suspect until we have proven otherwise." April the 1st. Stearns' father called Northport police to hand over one of Stearns' old computer towers he'd found while cleaning out Stearns' old bedroom. According to investigators, Stearns' father was afraid there could be more images and videos of child pornography on the device. However, upon examining the computer tower, detectives found it was missing a hard drive. April the 4th. The District 9 Medical Examiner's Office announced that the autopsy report into Soto's death could not be released due to state statutes deeming it confidential. However, audio from the 911 calls involved in the case was released by the Orange County Sheriff's Office. In the 911 calls, 2 different voices can be heard speaking with dispatchers. The Sheriff's Office explained that the callers' identities are confidential under state law. April the 10th. Deputies said Stearns called his father from jail telling him, "You know that I would never have wanted that for Madeline." Stearns then added, "I'm not sure really that any one person is specifically responsible. It's probably a combination of factors that led to it. I have never felt anything like that before. It was horrible." That appears to be some form of admission, but actually it's blame shifting by suggesting that not one person was actually responsible and that it was a combination of factors. His father responded by saying he hoped the truth would come out, and Stearns replied, "Well, yeah." On April 11th, Stearns' father called detectives while he was cleaning out his storage unit. According to investigators, Stearns' father had found a hard drive for a desktop computer in one of the storage bins, along with Stearns' watch, which Stearns had previously told his father was in his bedroom at their Northport home. As a result, Stearns' father told detectives that Stearns must have gotten into the storage unit during his trip to Northport on February the 28th. This suggests that Stearns had attended because he was looking to tamper with the evidence, i.e., he was aware that there was evidence that would prove a threat to his position, and therefore sought to nullify that threat. On April the 12th, police retrieved the items from Stearns' father, including the hard drive and 2 other USB drives. On April the 18th, the police said they had Soto's mother and her attorney come in for another interview. During the interview, the mother said she had returned home from work around 11:30 p.m. to find Stearns and Soto alone downstairs in their home. However, Soto was reportedly not wearing the same clothes that were on her body when it was found after her death. A detective also asked Soto's mother why she let Stearns stay at their home even after the two broke up. Soto's mother stated Madeline would sleep with her the majority of the time, and when Stephen began staying there, the three of them would sleep in the same bed. Boundary recognition issues. She stated Madeline never wanted to sleep alone in her bedroom. Soto's mother could not remember how many times she let Madeline sleep with Stephen alone in his bedroom. She stated she allowed it because she trusted Stephen and he treated Soto as his daughter. When Soto's mother stated she and Stephen ended their relationship, Madeline had an idea but never spoke about it. Soto's mother said she spoke with Stephen about possibly moving back to help him get on his feet, but she didn't know if it was going to be permanent or temporary. On April the 22nd, police said that the hard drive found in the storage unit had not been used since 2020 and did not contain any evidence. However, one of the retrieved USB drives contained over 35,000 images of child pornography, police added. The suggestion is that this belongs to Stephen Stearns and that viewing such a vast range of child pornography in terms of numbers demonstrates again a sustained course of behaviour which would exhibit a sense of entitlement and an absence of emotional empathy. Orange Osceola State Attorney Andrew Bain and the police held a news conference and announced that Stephen Stearns was indicted on a first-degree murder charge by a grand jury in the death of Madeline Soto. The evidence shows an individual who was entrusted to keep Madeline safe, breach of trust, made calculated moves to dispose Madeline's belongings, nullification of threat to control, and place her body in a wooded area before she was ever reported missing, nullification of threat to control, absence of emotional empathy. The state attorney said his office had not yet decided whether it would seek the death penalty against Stearns in this case. On the 14th of May, Stearns called his father, who asked why Stearns drove to Northport on February the 28th. "I'd wanted to grab a few things and get my ducks in a row," Stearns reportedly said. "Kind of prepare myself for whatever was coming, but I couldn't find what I was looking for." Stearns' father then stated he wished he could understand how the whole situation came about, and Stearns replied, "Well, I didn't start it." Blame shifting. After his father pointed out that Stearns did participate in it, Stearns just said, "Yeah." At no point during the conversation did Stearns deny killing Soto, police said. According to detectives, they believe that Stearns had gone to his parents' home in Northport on February the 28th and used their Wi-Fi to log into his Google account in an attempt to delete the images and videos of the sexual abuse he perpetrated. Accordingly, he's aware of the existence of a record and seeks to nullify the threat to control posed by the existence of that record. 16th of May, the state attorneys released several investigative reports and interview audio between Stearns and investigators that dated back to February the 27th. According to one of the reports, detectives interviewed a witness about the relationship between Stearns, Soto and Soto's mother. After showing the witness one of the pictures from Stearns' Google Drive, the witness became visibly upset. The newly released reports also show that the Google Drive had files going back to at least 2019, again supporting the fact that this behaviour has gone on over a sustained period of time. The Orange County Sheriff's Office released body cam videos from the investigation on the night when Soto was originally reported missing. On June the 10th, the State Attorney's Office announced that prosecutors are seeking the death penalty against Stearns. On the 23rd of July, state prosecutors issued a civil summons to Osceola County Sheriff Marcus Lopez after the confidential crime scene photograph was released back in March. Under Florida law, images that depict the killing of a minor are confidential and cannot be released by a government agency. As such, Lopez was cited with violating Florida's public record laws, a non-criminal infraction that carries a fine up to $500. Prosecutors didn't accuse Lopez of intentionally releasing the photograph, which is a more serious misdemeanour punishable by up to a year in jail. August the 21st, officials released 911 calls showing that the loved ones of Madeline Soto called authorities 3 times to report her missing, informing them that she never showed up to school. 3 hours passed before Orange County Sheriff's deputies started an investigation into the calls. August the 26th, investigative reports were released, revealing even more details about the case. For starters, the reports show Soto's official cause of death was homicide via strangulation, i.e. she was killed, and naturally whoever killed her used a physical assertion of control over her, and this was an absence of emotional empathy. During the investigation, detectives discovered that Stearns and Soto had been alone in his room on the night prior to her death on February the 26th. In addition, the new reports say that Stearns had searched the terms sevoflurane and show up in drug test on his phone in the weeks leading up to Soto's disappearance. Sevoflurane is an anaesthetic that can cause hypnosis, amnesia and analgesia, although it's typically used during medical treatments. September the 19th, detectives released video showing the interrogation that took place before Stearns' arrest. During the interview, Stearns explained to detectives what he did the day Soto went missing. Stearns was in the interrogation room for over 5 hours. For the first 3 hours, he is seen sleeping on the desk before detectives come in to question him. October the 14th. During a pre-trial hearing, an Osceola County judge scheduled a February 24th, 2025 trial date for the child sex battery case and September the 22nd, 2025 for the homicide case. Stearns, who faces the death penalty if convicted of killing Soto, has pleaded not guilty. So that's a timeline to date in relation to the tragic death of the 13-year-old girl. And whilst there has been no trial yet and no conviction, certain evidence that has been located certainly supports an individual who is the main suspect of being somebody who operates with a sense of entitlement, has in repeated instances behaved in a way which is commensurate with seeking to nullify a threat to control, has behaved in a manner whereby an individual has been objectified, has shown an absence of accountability with regard to his behaviours, has shown an absence of boundary recognition, has demonstrated manipulative behaviours, has shown inconsistency in the recall of events, and has shown various aspects of the narcissistic dynamic. This is without a trial of the evidence. What also is of interest is the mother with regard to her behaviour in terms of allowing abuse to have taken place in relation to her daughter. Undoubtedly, more evidence will be provided in due course in relation to that, which could possibly see her involved in the criminal proceedings also as the investigation ongoes. What is evident from the evidence so far is that child sexual abuse has taken place whereby Stearns has engaged in that and has done so repeatedly over a sustained period of time. It's clear that he's done that because it was easy for him, either with the complicit nature or the absence of involvement of the mother, to assert control over Madeline Soto, that he would have derived fuel from her responses, and he would have had the residual benefit of deriving pleasure from what he was doing. The fact that he was an individual that was interested in child pornography supports the fact that he would engage in physical abuse. Not all viewers of child pornography naturally go on to commit abuse, but given that there was evidence of him abusing Madeline Soto found on the devices which form the basis of the indictment, and his extensive viewing of such material supports an individual that is devoid of any emotional empathy for the children affected by the activities that he engages in. It's evident that he has the hallmarks of a narcissist, and I shall be examining further evidence in relation to body cam footage and audio to help you understand more about what is happening and how he has behaved, and also, of course, having due regard to what occurs in relation to the 2 trials that are forthcoming. It's clear that Stearns is a narcissist based on the evidence that has been provided so far. A question mark remains over the conduct and status of the mother. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.